If you have a United States passport, if you're a green card holder, or if you're somewhere in the middle of the immigration process, what we're talking about today absolutely matters to you. A lot of people assume that once you reach citizenship, everything is locked in forever and nothing can touch it. The truth is more complicated. There are very specific, legally defined situations where American citizenship can be lost or questioned, and the way that happens is often misunderstood. My goal in this video is not to scare you. I'm not here to create panic or make you feel unsafe. My goal is to give you clear, accurate information so that you understand how the system really works and you can move forward with confidence instead of confusion. When you actually know the rules and the procedures, you replace fear with clarity, and that makes a huge difference in how you feel about your status and your future. You're watching Immigration Newsroom, and I appreciate that you're trusting this channel to explain complex immigration topics in a calm, respectful way. Citizenship law, visa policies, and enforcement priorities are not static. They change over time. New interpretations come out from agencies. Court cases adjust the boundaries of what's allowed. Different administrations focus on different things. In the middle of all that movement, real people like you are simply trying to understand where you stand and what you should do. In this video, we're going to walk through the real legal mechanisms that can affect citizenship status, who they apply to, what the government actually looks for, and how these situations unfold in real life. Along the way, I'll also talk briefly about what's happening in the broader immigration system, processing times, backlogs, and what's normal versus what should get your attention. Before we go any further, I need to say this very clearly. Nothing in this video is personal legal advice. I'm not your lawyer, and I'm not speaking on behalf of any government agency. What I'm offering is research, explanation, and perspective so you can have a better understanding of the landscape. Your own case may have details that really matter, and for that, you should always consult a qualified immigration attorney. A lot of people believe that once they've gone through naturalization and received that certificate, once they've gotten the blue U.S. passport and started voting, they are untouchable in every imaginable way. For the overwhelming majority of naturalized citizens, that feeling is justified. Their citizenship is never questioned, and they live their entire lives as Americans without any legal problems related to their status. But citizenship law does have nuances, and that's what we'll unpack. U.S. citizenship is one of the most durable and protected legal statuses in the world. It comes with constitutional rights, the right to vote, the ability to live and work here permanently, and strong procedural safeguards. Still, under specific conditions and through defined legal procedures, the government can go back and review how that citizenship was obtained. That doesn't mean agents are running around trying to strip good-faith citizens of their status. What it means is that the naturalization process itself is treated very seriously, and when someone cheated that process in a major way, there is a legal path for the government to respond. Before we talk about how citizenship can be given up or challenged, it helps to start with the basic question: who is a U.S. citizen in the first place? There are two main groups. Some people are citizens from the moment they are born. They're born in the United States or certain U.S. territories, or they're born abroad to parents who meet the legal requirements to transmit citizenship. Others become citizens later in life through naturalization. They were born in another country, came to the U.S. through lawful means, maintained lawful status, met physical presence and residency requirements, passed the English and civics exams, and took the oath of allegiance. Both groups, citizens by birth and citizens by naturalization, share the same core constitutional protections and legal rights. But there is a difference in how those statuses can ever be questioned later. For people who obtain citizenship at birth in the U.S., that status is incredibly secure. In almost every situation, it cannot be taken away. The only realistic exception involves serious fraud right at the beginning, things like forged birth records or a completely fabricated identity that created the appearance of a U.S. birth that never happened. Those cases are unusual and often tied to organized schemes, not ordinary families. For naturalized citizens, there's a detailed paper trail: applications, interviews, fingerprints, background checks, sworn statements. If strong evidence later appears that a key part of that process involved deliberate deception, especially deception that would have led to a denial, then there is a legal mechanism to challenge that naturalization. That doesn't mean that small mistakes, language problems, or nervous answers automatically put you in danger. The focus is on intentional and important misrepresentations or concealment of facts that really mattered to eligibility. As you listen to the rest of this, keep one central truth in mind. The vast majority of naturalized citizens will never face any effort to take away their citizenship. The cases that do get attention almost always involve major fraud, serious criminal issues that were hidden, or behavior that completely contradicts the oath of allegiance. These are not routine situations. They are rare and they face heavy legal scrutiny. The first way citizenship can be lost is actually the simplest to understand and the one that's easiest to control because it is fully voluntary. It's called renunciation. Renunciation is when a U.S. citizen chooses to give up their citizenship on purpose through a formal, structured process. It does not happen because you live abroad for a long time. It does not happen because you complain about politics on social media. It does not happen by accident. To renounce, a person usually has to go in person to a U.S. embassy or consulate outside the United States. They meet with a consular officer. They fill out specific forms. The officer explains the consequences and makes sure the person understands that this decision is serious and permanent. The person then signs an oath, stating clearly that they are voluntarily giving up their U.S. nationality. There is also a large government fee involved. Once the process is completed and approved, it is treated as final, and it is very difficult to undo. People choose renunciation for many different reasons. Some have spent decades living permanently in another country and no longer feel American. Others are focused on financial or tax issues that apply to U.S. citizens abroad. Some make the choice for personal, political, or philosophical reasons. Whatever the motivation, the key point is that renunciation is something you do intentionally. It is not something that quietly happens to you without your knowledge. When someone renounces, they give up the automatic right to live and work in the United States. They lose the right to vote in U.S. elections. In the future, they may need a visa just to visit. For the overwhelming majority of U.S. citizens, renunciation never comes up and never will. It is relatively rare, carefully documented, and tightly controlled. Because there is so much misinformation online, I want to state this as clearly as possible. Simply living outside the United States does not make you lose your citizenship. Holding another country's passport, having dual citizenship, or staying abroad for years does not mean you secretly renounced anything. Unless you go through the official process and sign the paperwork, you have not renounced. Now we move into the area that makes a lot of people uneasy. Situations where the government, not the individual, initiates a challenge to naturalize citizenship. This is called denaturalization. It sounds frightening, and it is serious, but it is also rare and governed by strict rules. Denaturalization typically comes into play when the government concludes that a person obtained citizenship through fraud, through lying, hiding crucial information, or using a false identity during the immigration or naturalization process. The key word is material. The misrepresentation has to be important enough that, if the truth had been known at the time, citizenship likely would not have been granted. Examples might include concealing a serious criminal record, hiding membership in certain organizations that would have made the person ineligible, using a completely different identity, or giving false sworn testimony about major requirements like continuous residence or good moral character. Even in those cases, citizenship is not snapped away overnight. There is a process. The government generally files a civil lawsuit in federal court. The person is notified. They have the right to hire a lawyer, to review the evidence, to respond, and to challenge what the government is claiming. A federal judge weighs the evidence and applies the law. Only if the court agrees that the government has met the legal standard can naturalization be canceled. That decision can often be appealed further. So yes, denaturalization exists, but it is not a secret shortcut for removing people without due process. For almost everyone who went through the process honestly, told the truth on their forms, and disclosed what they were supposed to disclose, this is not something they will ever face. The government is not generally interested in taking citizenship away from people over minor paperwork errors or misunderstandings. Another area that causes confusion involves what someone does after they become a citizen. People ask, can I lose my citizenship because of what I say, who I protest with, or which causes I support? Under U.S. law, there are extremely narrow circumstances, usually involving active participation in violent or extremist movements, or working for certain hostile foreign powers, where a person's actions can prompt the government to look back at their oath of allegiance and their original intent. We are talking about very serious things: involvement with organizations that openly advocate violent overthrow of the U.S. government, engagement in terrorism, serving as an agent of an enemy in an armed conflict, things at that level. This has nothing to do with peaceful protest, criticism of the government, religious beliefs, membership in normal community groups, or political disagreements. The law focuses on intentional alignment with groups whose clear goal is violence or subversion against the United States. And even then, any challenge to citizenship would go through legal procedures, not rumors or social media speculation. If you see dramatic headlines about someone losing citizenship, always look closely at the context. Was there serious fraud? Was there involvement with violent groups? Was there a national security case behind it? In almost all of those stories, the background explains why the case was so extreme. It's not something that suddenly happens to everyday people living normal lives, raising kids, working, studying, and paying taxes. Dual citizenship is another area where myths are common. Millions of Americans legally hold citizenship in two countries. Some were born abroad and later naturalized here, keeping their original nationality. Others were born in the U.S. and also inherited another citizenship from their parents. As a general rule, U.S. law allows dual citizenship. Having two passports is not automatically a problem. You can travel to see family, maintain cultural roots, or even own property abroad without risking your U.S. status. There are some unusual situations where dual citizenship gets complicated, usually when someone takes a formal, high-level role in a foreign government or takes an oath that explicitly renounces allegiance to the United States. Even in those rare cases, the main question is intent. Did the person truly mean to give up their U.S. nationality? Renewing another country's passport, voting in some foreign elections, or living abroad typically does not by itself cause loss of U.S. citizenship. For most dual citizens, this is a non-issue. Another extreme category involves treason and similar acts against the United States. These situations are exceptionally rare and usually involve major criminal cases, working as an agent of an enemy, taking up arms against the U.S., or committing other acts defined in law as treason. These cases involve intense investigation, criminal prosecution, and full court proceedings with all constitutional protections. This is not about criticizing policies or expressing anger online. This is about serious, violent, intentional harm. For virtually everyone watching this, it is simply not relevant. To those of you who were born in the United States, there's a lot of unnecessary fear driven by rumors. If you were born on U.S. soil, or in most U.S. territories and are a citizen by birth, your citizenship is extremely strong and constitutionally protected. It does not vanish because you spent years abroad. It does not disappear because of something your parents did in the past. It is not taken away because you made mistakes, missed a tax payment, or had a visa issue in the family. Only in extremely rare situations involving outright fraudulent birth records or staged births has citizenship by birth ever been questioned, and those are unusual, heavy evidence cases. Now that we've looked at the rare ways citizenship can be given up or challenged, let's shift to something that affects many more of you on a daily basis: the immigration process itself and the anxiety that comes with waiting for visas, green cards, work permits, travel documents, and naturalization decisions. If you are stuck in the middle of a long process right now, constantly refreshing your case status, I understand how mentally exhausting that is. You hear one friend say their case took 6 months, and someone else say theirs took 2 years. You watch social media and see people claim they got approvals overnight. The result is confusion and stress. The reality is that USCIS and the State Department are still handling backlogs built up over years: pandemic closures, surges in filings, staffing challenges. Some types of cases have improved in speed, others remain slow. Employment-based petitions in certain categories and certain work permits have seen better processing in some service centers. Family-based petitions in busy regions and certain consulates remain under strain. In most situations, this doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your file. It often just means you are in a long line. When your online status says case is actively being reviewed, most of the time that simply means your case is in the workflow. The absence of updates is not automatically a negative sign. The best thing you can do is keep your documents organized, watch your online USCIS account or email closely, and respond thoroughly and on time if they request more evidence. Comparing your timeline to everyone else's can drive you crazy because each case has different facts, different categories, different service centers, different countries of chargeability, different background checks. Two people may file identical forms in the same month and still see different speeds because of factors behind the scenes. If you're on a work visa, H-1B, L-1, O-1, and so on, demand is high. That can slow things down. Premium processing can sometimes speed up decisions, but not always. Additional security checks or administrative review can add months even when everything is ultimately approved. A delay is not the same as a denial. Students on F1 visas need to plan early and keep close communication with their school's international office. Staying enrolled full-time, following the rules around optional practical training and employment, and keeping your SEVIS record clean can prevent many headaches. Tourist and business visitors on B1, B2 visas need to remember that consular officers and border officers primarily want clarity and honesty. They want to see that your story makes sense, that your visit is temporary, and that you have reasons to return home. There is no magic phrase. The best preparation is truthful information and calm, consistent answers. For families waiting on immigrant visas or adjustment of status, the process feels deeply personal because it's tied to reunions, weddings, births, illnesses, and so many major life events. When interviews are rescheduled or documents are kicked back, it feels like your life is being delayed. Most of the time, these hurdles are procedural, not personal judgments about you. Staying patient, following instructions carefully, and avoiding emotional reactions that lead to bad decisions is often the best you can do. Green card processing times vary widely by category and location. Some adjustment cases are scheduled for interview quickly, others take far longer. The movement of the visa bulletin, especially in employment-based and certain family-based categories, can be extremely frustrating when it retrogresses. But retrogression is a mathematical way the system manages worldwide demand under fixed annual limits. It's not about you personally. Usually it means not yet, not never. Interviews themselves are another source of anxiety. Many people fear that a single wrong word will destroy everything. In reality, most interviews are focused on confirming the information already in your file, checking for consistency, and clearing up any confusion. Officers ask about your job, your address history, your relationship if it's a marriage case, your travel, your background. If you don't remember an exact date, it's better to say, "I'm not sure," than to guess. If the officer needs more evidence, they'll send you a request in writing. That's frustrating, but it's also an opportunity to fix gaps. Travel while cases are pending is another major worry. Before you leave the U.S., make sure you understand whether your status allows you to return, whether you need advance parole, and how travel might impact your pending application. Carry all necessary documents, allow extra time at the airport, and be ready to explain your situation honestly to CBP officers. If you are visiting the U.S. temporarily, the same principles apply. Be very clear about your purpose, how long you're staying, and what ties you have back home. Sometimes people are sent to secondary inspection. That can feel scary, but often it's just about verifying something in the system. Calm, respectful cooperation is usually the best approach. As we bring this together, here's the core message. U.S. citizenship is strong, and for people who followed the rules and acted in good faith, it is extremely secure. There are narrow, clearly defined situations where citizenship can be voluntarily surrendered or legally challenged, but those are rare and usually involve either a deliberate choice to renounce or serious fraud, or extreme conduct that is far outside normal life. For the average citizen who works hard, tells the truth, and lives an ordinary life, threat to citizenship is not something you need to constantly fear. Awareness is helpful. Constant anxiety is not. For those of you still in the immigration journey, waiting on visas, work permits, green cards, or naturalization, yes, the process can be long, confusing, and emotional. Timelines shift. Backlogs grow and shrink, interviews are rescheduled, and notices show up when you least expect them. Feeling tired or overwhelmed is completely normal. What matters most is staying informed, staying honest, and staying organized. If this video helped you feel a little clearer or a little calmer about your status, I'm glad you're here. If you'd like ongoing explanations about U.S. immigration, citizenship, visas, and travel in a straightforward, non-dramatic way, make sure you subscribe to Immigration Newsroom, turn on notifications, and consider sharing this video with someone who's hearing a lot of rumors and needs solid information instead. Thank you for your time, for your attention, and for trusting Immigration Newsroom as a place to get clear, respectful immigration updates.